evening. I'm Ashna, a student of School of Architecture, where you all have gathered for a lecture or a talk by Professor Neelkanth Chhaya. He has been teaching at CEPT University for the last 25 years and has recently finished his tenure as a full-time faculty member. This lecture is in honor of his vast and immeasurable contribution towards architectural education at CEPT. Before we begin, I would request everyone to please switch off their cell phones. I would also request Professor Bimal Patel to come and talk about this amazing teacher of ours to the audience.
Friends, good evening and welcome to everybody. I'm going to talk of three things. First, in telegraphic form, give you Professor Neelkanth Chhaya's biodata. Second, I want to say very briefly something about his contribution. Very briefly because it's big and I don't think I can do justice by trying to capture all of it. And lastly, I want to say a little bit about individuals and institutions. I want to use this occasion to talk about individuals and institutions. So let's start with some very basic information about Professor Chhaya. He was born in 1951 in Nairobi. Some of you might have seen this on the poster, but I think it's fitting that we go over it once again right now. He completed schooling in Nairobi. He came to study architecture. He came to Ahmedabad and was a student at CEPT from 1969 to 75. He started his career by working in the office of Professor A.D. Raje during 1976. During that period, he was also a teaching assistant at the school here. From 1976 to 1984, he worked in Nairobi in a private architectural firm for the first 3 years, and then from 79 to 84, he was a lecturer at the Faculty of Architecture, Design and Development at the University of Nairobi. So Chhaya has been a teacher all his life. He started very early. Professor Chhaya then moved to India in 1985 and established a practice in partnership with Kallol Joshi at Baroda. During this period, he was also a visiting faculty member at the School of Architecture at Vallabh Vidyanagar between 1985-86. Then he was requested to join here in the faculty, and he started teaching at School of Architecture in July 1987, and has been teaching at CEPT since then. So it's a full quarter century that he completes today. That's terrific tenure here. He was appointed head of the School of Architecture as its director, acting director in 2004, and was appointed dean in 2006. Professor Chhaya has also been a practicing architect throughout his tenure, and during this period, in partnership with Kallol Joshi and Sohan Neelkanth, between 1987 to 2001, he has been doing a number of works that many of you know about. Since 2001, he has been practicing independently. The practice has won several national competitions and awards. Professor Chhaya has also been invited to speak at various schools and has run workshops for students and faculty members all across India and in other parts of the world. You know all about that. He's also participated and presented papers or keynote addresses at several national and international conferences. Apart from architecture, he has a passionate interest in Indian classical music, as well as literature, philosophy, and the human sciences. So here in brief is an account of Professor Chhaya's work over the last many years. His contribution to CEPT, as was just said earlier, is very big. When he joined it and started teaching, he ended up providing a continuity to a tradition here. When he started heading the school, his clear task was to uphold the core values of this institution and its commitment to academic excellence, which he has done absolutely well over the last many years. When he joined, there was also a number of institutional issues that we had to deal with, which he has dealt with very well. There was a big vacuum of people, of full-time faculty members, and it is Chhaya really who brought in a lot of young people, groomed and mentored them, and in a sense created the next generation that will take this institution forward. So in that sense, in this second sense, his contribution is immense. He did not have an absolute continuity, and he really picked up that aspect of the institution really well. I think I won't say much more beyond this regarding his contribution. I think we have the talk and we know a lot about this. That is why we have so many people, jam-packed, as you can see. Everybody is here to listen to me, Chhaya. I just want to spend a few minutes talking about institutions and individuals. What does it take to build long-lasting, robust institutions committed to excellence? Well, if institutions have to be long-lasting, like many that we see all across the world, like Oxford and Cambridge and Harvard and places like that, which has been going on for literally hundreds of years, then both things have to be paid attention to: continuity and change. The institution has to continually be committed to its core values of excellence. Without that, it cannot last very long. But it has to constantly reinvent itself also, because the world never stops. And as the world changes, the institution has to reinvent itself. And that's why both continuity and change are important. Institutions, in some sense, are like relay races, where the runners, there's a team, they're running, you run for a while, and then at some point you pass the baton on to the next runner, who then takes that and moves forward. So you have both continuity and you have change. The baton, in a sense, is the core values and the essence of the institution that you pass on to the next generation. But that's where this comparison to a relay race stops. Unlike a relay race, while you are running, you're also grooming the next runner. You're also mentoring them, and you're developing the next runner as you go along. And unlike a relay race, once you are out of the race, you don't just stand outside and cheer your team along. You have in an institution the possibility of running in there when the need is felt and somebody calls you to help out. That's possible. It's not possible in a relay race, but in an institution it's possible. In that sense, you'll never leave the institution fully. So while you might not be actively running the race, you are there with us. And that is a commitment that in our meeting with the faculty, Chhaya has most generously, that commitment has been given by him, saying, I'm there, don't worry, I have full faith in the next lot, take it along. And that really is very important, because in a relay race, as everybody knows, it's not the speed of the runner, but the grace with which you hand over the baton, the generosity and the smoothness with which the baton is handed over, that determines which team will win. And thank you, Chhaya, for all that you've done up to now and all that you're going to continue doing for CEPT. So with that, may I invite you to please deliver your talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bimal. Thank you, Ashna, too, and all the students, and all my friends, and my teachers, and my mentors, and my colleagues, everyone. It's a very overwhelming occasion for me. I'm overwhelmed by the love that you have for me, and I feel too small to deserve so much. Yet I'm very privileged to get it. I think Bimal said very rightly that there is a chain. There is an unending chain when an institution starts. And it's very wonderful that one of the founders is also here, and the youngest student of first year is also here. And that chain is unbroken, though changing from link to link. But it's a chain. It's a genetic code. It's something which is built into the material of our being. And I'd like to talk about this which has shaped us. This environment has shaped each one of us who calls herself a CEPTian, either as a faculty member or as a friend or as a participant or student. Anyone who has been associated with this place for some time considers that this place has shaped me. And that is why we all are grateful to this place. And that's what I would like to talk about. In what way has this shaped us? This question is personally important to me because it means what is the direction of my life. It is institutionally important because it says what is the nature of that baton which we are passing on. So I'll try to elaborate on that. Unfortunately, my closely written notes run into 9 small cards, and I hope that I will not take 25 years with this presentation and try to make it as concise as possible. First thing, I think it is very important that this school is in Ahmedabad. It is not in Mumbai, it is not in Delhi, it is in Ahmedabad, and that makes an important, very, very important difference to the kind of school that it can be. What is important about Ahmedabad? Well, though the Gujarati or the Ahmedabadi looks like a very timid person, he's a very daring person. Ranchod Rentio failed several times before he could make the cotton mill work. Against all predictions, it couldn't work because the climate was too dry, coal was too far, everything was wrong. He made it work. That's Ahmedabad's spirit. And I think that daring is first of all there in the genetic code of this place. Second is thrift and conservation of resources. We never waste anything. We use everything to the fullest, whether it is space, money, people, everything. We take the last bit out of it. And I think that's genetic code of Ahmedabad. Of course, many jokes about it are there, but it's a very important part of the genetic code. There's no wastage. This is possible because, but it's not that there is no celebration. And why is this possible? We believe Ahmedabadis, and I now consider myself an Ahmedabadi, though I was born elsewhere. More of my life has been spent here. We believe in personal frugality, personal austerity, and generosity in the community. That we make resources possible, we create a lot of knowledge, wealth, etc. We give it to the community. I think that's very important to understand. Next is the softness, the non-violent character of the Gujarati. Fast changing. Unfortunately, Ahmedabad is changing in a direction which is very frightening at times. But we are a soft people who want to make the best of a situation. This way, that way, we will adjust. Adjust is an Indian word. Professor Khosla reminded me. Adjust, as he says. But we know how to make the best of a situation. That is Ahmedabad. In Delhi, you won't do it. You will make sure that your will gets done or you are defeated. But here, no. We are open and we welcome outsiders. I am an outsider. Doshi was an outsider. Jaimini was an outsider. Bimal is an outsider. All of us are in some sense outsiders, not geographical outsiders, but outsiders in not fitting into the community perfectly, and yet not agreeing with every aspect of our community, and still accepted fully into this community. Next, we believe in many, many small actions which build large changes through participation of hundreds of thousands of people. Look at the share market, and Ahmedabad is a very interesting example of small, so many small ownerships. And in the same way, we do all our social activities through that kind of a participation of small things, not big lumps of money thrown at a project or a. So that's, and then finally, there is an unwritten code of conduct. It's a law which is agreed upon within the community. And it is the social sanction which makes the law valid and not the other way around. These are the characteristics which we inherit through all the people who made this institution possible, the people who paid for it, who gave us the land, who made the buildings, but also those who participated as outsiders into this process. So this is a place of learning. This school which was set up was a place of learning and not a place of teaching. There is a distinction. A place of teaching is a place where transmission happens. A place of learning is where an internal process happens. So the school taught us that the question is at least as important. The question is at least as important, if not more important, than the answer. Each one of us who has come out of this place questions, incessantly questions the place in which he is, his society is, everything. So the question is the daring, the adventurous, daring question which this school has all the time promoted. A student may have only one drawing on the tackboard, but it's a drawing with a lot of adventure, thought, and it shows a passion for reinventing, then that student is accepted. That is the kind of school that this was. Nowhere else have I found this. But it is also a school which taught us that responsiveness is equal to responsibility. Responsiveness to the context, to our social context, our geographical context, our climate, our material context, the technologies that we have, that forms a cultural code, and our responsiveness to that, not following blindly, but responsiveness to that, it forms a sort of responsibility. So that is what a professional is. That means that we are attached, we are constantly looking at the context, we are looking at the historical context, and we are looking at the cultural order, the cultural code in which we are building, in order to build something which will expand the code, which will not delete the code nor slavishly follow the code. Next other thing that the school taught as a place of learning, working is more important than books. Anything that we design has to work, and it is for human beings, it is made in a way in which it works very well, and that is more important than the looks. That, I must tell you this, in the climate of 1962 to 1970s, where schools across the country were only interested in doing watercolor perspectives. This was the only school which was built out of this kind of a commitment. And how do we reach that? We look at the fundamentals. We don't look only at the givens, but we look at the fundamental factors affecting any given situation. So we look afresh. We look from the ground up. No accepted learnings. So this is what this school came about to be. One last thing, and which is not always sort of realized, but it taught us that the immeasurable cannot be taught. There is something which is immeasurable about human relations, about our relation to nature, about our relation even to material reality. It is immeasurable. And it can't be taught. But it is the objective of all serious human action. All serious human effort is not only to gain control over things or to make maximum, but it is to approach something which cannot be measured, which goes beyond the measurement. So that there is evolution, there is temporal appropriateness. At this point in time, in this historical condition, this is appropriate, etc., etc. But behind that stands something which is undefinable. And this school respects, will continue to respect that immeasurable as the fundamental and final goal of any human activity. And I think this applies to all our schools, not just to the School of Architecture. But this means really that knowledge is a kind of art of reflecting upon the existing formulations. Not accepting the existing formulations, it is reflection upon the existing formulations. And when this knowledge starts getting more and more extended and diffuse and more connections are seen, you cannot define it completely. And therefore the tacit or the unstateable is more important than the explicit. This is my belief. We can have many beliefs here. All of us can have different beliefs. But that is a kind of a tangible sense that I take away from here. And this is the paradox of creativity. A creative person has to know the rules. Professional, let's call it. A professional has to be knowledgeable. If you go to a doctor and if he sort of says that, well, I don't really know what is your, then you go to another doctor. He is expected to know. But I came across a doctor in my life who, while checking, the patient would say, Mr. Chhaya, what do you think? Should we give an iron? You know, and there was this kind of a sense of a hesitant professionalism, which there was a humility in it. It said, I don't know everything. I am willing to still learn, still learn, still learn. That hesitation is the paradox of creativity. Because the creative person has to be in command of all his abilities. His body, his mind, his hands, everything. And yet, at the point of making, he has to be completely somebody who knows nothing. He has to know nothing. He has to be like a baby at that point. Now, this is not a self-indulgent subjectivity. It is not a retreat into a kind of nostalgic memory of childhood, but it is a responsible cultural creativity. I always think about the Indian musician. They are taught in their gharana the rag. हमारे घराने में ऐसे ही गाते हैं, कुछ और नहीं करना, यही गाओ, बस और कुछ नहीं गा सकते. And the teacher drums it into him, and makes him drill the thing again and again and again, just like we make you draw again and again and again. The teacher does this till the skill is absolutely in the very fiber of that person's body. There is nothing external. Every skill is there in that fiber. And then is put on stage and is supposed to do something creative, something different, something new. He has to stretch that rod. He has to take it to the limit, and he has to come back from the brink, or sometimes even fall over the brink. That is quite all right, as long as he's doing it responsibly. And I think this is the paradox of creativity, that this school has encouraged every student to go to the brink, every faculty member to go to the brink, and then come back safe. There are zones of safety, like Aliapur Khan Sahab says, Zahar ki dawa, in that rag, that Zahar is coming, and you have to have a dawa which will immediately correct it. That thing is available. This school is the harbor of that safety, in which, from where we can jump off and come back. So then, it really means that we are talking about school in a very different way. It is unlike any other way in which we can talk about the school. What is a school then? If you are saying, I won't teach, you will learn, then what's the point? There is no, and we used to have these American lecturers who, I came to first year, as an innocent young boy, and the American teachers would sort of shrug and say, well, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I feel. And then they would say, what the hell? You come here to teach me, and you are saying you don't know? Well, that's the nature of this job. That's the nature of this task, that you know, but you still hesitate to say that you know. You still hesitate to freeze the fact that you know something, but that's only a very small thing. And there will be many, many more things that you can do. So a school is a place where you can be like that. But educational institutions are necessary. They are necessary, of course. We need to create the place where people can come together. Some people have more experience, others are new. They are coming together and learning together and teaching one another and so on and so forth. Educational institutions are necessary. It is not to say that we have to do away with institutions. But the institution is not the objective. The objective is the transformation that happens in the teacher and in the student at the point of learning. And that point of learning is where both are transformed, not the student alone. What has been the most exciting thing about being here is that every semester I am changed from what I was. Every semester, every single day in fact. And that is the nature of the place of learning, that transformation of all individuals who are part of that. So institutions regulate transactions. You pay a fee, I teach you. I mean, that's the crudest way of putting it. But the less crude ways of putting it, that there are obligations and there are duties and so on and so forth. And obviously, institutions must do this. They have to have this. Otherwise, they fall apart. But the institution's final goal and objective is to free the individual for that internal process, for that learning process where we are transforming ourselves. And that is something which doesn't happen when we remember the institution and its norms. And this is the only school perhaps which has escaped this kind of a shadow. That, for example, we talk about so many other schools in India which were places of creative energy. And they became connected to the sense of being an institution. And that is something which we must all the time remember. This is our goal. The place of learning is our goal. You know, if we look at the extremes, on one side there is the personal search for right action. Whether I am an architect, a doctor or anything, whatever I do, I want to do it rightly in my own life, in my family, in my relations with everybody, friends, etc. I want to do the right thing. And that is an internal process, completely internal process. Doesn't affect anybody in society, except those with whom I come in contact. It doesn't affect anybody. It's an internal process which is continually, should be going on, and in most cases is going on. On the other side are organizations which need to codify transactions. Institutions and organizations need to codify transactions. And the need for definite, clear, measurable formulations, methods, routines, law, rules. This all comes out of the need for institutions to set down the kind of frameworks within which activity will happen. In between is one very interesting area. Neither that absolute subjectivity nor that utter objectivity, but an in-between area which I think we normally call a community of practice. And the community of practice is based on trust and mutual respect. Trust happens how? By doing what you are supposed to do. Respect comes out of the quality of what you do. And each one of us, whether a student is a very brilliant student or a dull student, not fully skilled, not having learnt everything, that respect comes out of the fact that student is trying. कर रहा है कुछ शायद 2 साल बाद निकलेगा. With my colleague also it's the same. That I failed yesterday, I made a blunder. Today I'm trying to make it up. Okay, fine. So the trust and mutual respect, which creates an unsaid and continuously evolving code of mutual behavior. And this unsaid code is the birthplace of both the things. Unsaid code gives birth to law, to explicit law. You know, in our interactions in society, we can come across certain things and say, "नहीं, ये नहीं करना चाहिए, ये ठीक नहीं." धीरे-धीरे we come to some greater realization of that, and that has to be put into a law. On the other side, it is also telling the individual. The individual in his own personal search is asking to that unsaid code, to my respect for my colleagues, respect for my students, respect for the place in which of learning, is that code being respected in my actions. And these two are fed by the community of participation, community of learning. It happens through dialogue. It happens through social dialogue. It happens through academic dialogue. It happens through so many things of that kind. It happens through visibility. And it finally happens through the acceptance of the undefinable. That while we want to define as much as possible, as clearly as possible, the undefinable, that desire of that person to go into something which I never thought about, how can I integrate it into this code? You know, we often find in families, sons want to do things which their fathers hate them for doing. So either the son has to be thrown out, or the father has to enlarge the framework a little bit. And I think this is the kind of thing that also happens in institutions, that we start saying, no, there is some value in that. And that community of practice starts enlarging its code. Finally, then this depends on what? There are two ways in which people approach the world. One way is that everybody is good. Unless proven guilty, everybody is not guilty. Nobody is guilty till proven guilty. And the other way is, everybody is guilty until he proves himself not guilty. And we as institutions, we have to make sure that we have the right balance there. That I think, and this is something that comes to me from my family, my father, that everybody is good, everybody is trying to get better and better. Circumstances make them do bad things. So please trust people first, and then ask them to do something better. Persuade them, work with them. So this, I think the institution here is built on the idea that generally everyone will try to accept. Everyone will try to excel, provided we are in an atmosphere of excellence. I am trying to excel, Nitin is trying to excel, Pratyush is trying to excel. We are all doing that. Then yes, there's a drive for that. And that is where the institution rests its basic philosophy. What are the structural things about the institution which could affect this? One, I think the school has been very fortunate in maintaining a small scale of human interaction. Even if we are 1400, it's still a body which is quite reasonably manageable. And I still know almost every faculty member by name, by face. I certainly do know every faculty member, and then roughly I know all the students who are in the school, and I know some students who are in the other schools also. So that means that we are actually a community. And in a community, what happens? Every action that you do, you think, listen, my students are going to look at this. When I design this building, what will they say? If I do a bad building, they're really going to make me, ashamed of myself. And that, but there's also the other way around, that the student also thinks so. And then all of us, all colleagues, look at each other, not with the eye of trying to find fault, but saying, yeah, very nice. Same spirit, different ways, good, it's nice. And we get great pleasure out of this sense of common purpose, because the scale is small. And I think in whatever organizational way it is possible, necessary, we must find the ways in which scale is small. It's then important that we are all inner driven, not outer driven. That the goals of fame or money or all of that is not driving us, but there is an inner drive saying, no, whatever it is, I am a teacher. Whatever it is, I am a teacher. And that kind of a thing, I think, for the student as well, I'm sure, it's the same thing, that this inner driven person is part of this. And we must find more and more and more inner driven people continuously. We have been very lucky. We have been so lucky. Up to now, I have come across very few individuals who did not have that inner drive in this place. And this school, I can't tell you how lucky this school is. Ask anyone who is teaching elsewhere. This place has somehow attracted all this kind of inner driven continuous dialogue. That's a very important next thing. Need not be stressed more. The cycle of reflection, action, reflection, action, reflection, action is the cycle in which there can be missteps, there can be bad decisions, but it is always something in which we are going to reflect upon whatever we have decided. Very soon again we will reflect upon it. We might change it. And therefore there is always a dynamic process of creating this code of mutual respect and behavior in this community of learning. The rules are minimum. That's very important for this school. That there was never a great deal of weight. For example, I get a letter from a school somewhere which says, Mr. So-and-so, you are appointed external examiner for final year studio. This matter is to be maintained completely confidential and not revealed to any person. Not even to your wife, by the way. Now, in this school, 1 week before the final jury, we put up the list of examiners. These are the examiners. Setting karo hai to jai try to karo, setting karo. Koi karshe. This school has maintained that sense that the rule is only a tool. It's not the final goal. It's a tool. And we'll make the tools. We'll change the tools whenever required. We'll again make the tools. We'll find the right tools, small enough, minimum, maximum number of options, freedom. to choose, to move, to change direction. All of that we should have. Acceptance of failure and uncertainty. This school is famous for the uncertainty of the span of your career. 5 years is the stated limit for the undergraduate program. Often it has gone into 6, 7, 8. Then I have friends who have done 10 years here. I don't only have friends, I have a relative who has done 10 years here. Now this is something. What is the failure? You did not complete your runs on time. What is the failure? You thought that you could get away with something. It turned out to be a wrong decision. What is the failure? You had to learn something and so you couldn't do this. Fine. Next semester. The question which is, some point in time they started writing fail on the grade card. In original, up to the time that I joined the school, it used to say repeat. Vicky, you remember that, no? It was always written repeat. And repeat was a very respectable word. All of us used to repeat. Ajit Bhai knows that I have repeated mathematics because I could not learn calculus. So this is all there. So never be afraid of failure. Never be afraid of uncertainty, that kal kya hoga, whether it will happen or not. That, I think this school is the only school which tells you, don't get scared. It doesn't matter. What is 6 months in a man's life? Chalo jao. Yeah, that is what happens. And therefore it looks at the long-term goals, objectives and purpose of whatever activity it does. What is the long-term goal of being a teacher? What is the long-term goal of having a program of learning? What is the long-term goal of starting a course? It might fail in the first semester. It might fail in the second semester. The students' comments on it might be terrible. But still, if one thinks that there is a value to that course, he might want to run it. He might want to run it. And that is the very fiber of this place. That in the long run, what is the clarity of the purpose? Not of aim, not of defined objective. What is the clarity of purpose? And that is where I think the kind of place has been made here. How was this brought about? One, it was made by concerned outsiders. I think this is very important. Who are the people who set up this school? They were all people who did not fully believe in the kind of things that were happening in Indian society, in Ahmedabad, etc. They were outsiders. You look at Bernard Cohn. I had the very fortunate opportunity of reading his statement of purpose when he joined just now. And so it's a statement which is like amazing. It's like we applying to American University, we write a statement of purpose. He wrote a statement of purpose for coming to teach here. And that, it says, I don't agree with most of the things that are going on in the world. They are wasting too much, they are doing this, they are doing that. Doshi, why? What is his? He didn't need to settle out here. He's an outsider. Every other person. I look at Dr. Vakil. I look at Sukumar. I look at anybody who was there at that time in that initial phase of, and including the people who funded the school, which I believe, even though Kasturbai was well established in his community, he was still an outsider. In inner heart, he was an outsider because he thought differently from everybody else. That was one very important thing. And all the time, this sense of being an outsider, the sense of discomfort with what exists, is the springing point of the energy to do something. And I think all of us have that. This, it has to be nurtured, this sense of discomfort with existing reality. Then the next thing is the improbable mix. It's just impossible. I mean, look at this. What kind of a mix of people did you get together? You got one lawyer, oh no, an engineer who then studied law. You got one architect who went to France and then came back. You got another architect who had worked in some Japanese architect's workshop and learned carpentry. You got another engineer. You got all kinds of English teachers and all that kind of stuff. It's an improbable mix. If you want to start a school of architecture, this is the recipe for disaster. But that's the kind of thing that we need all the time to do. We always make the recipe of disaster work. That's Ahmedabad. So, improbable mix. And on this campus, what is the improbable mix? We of course have architects, planners, engineers, designers, that we have. Now we have managers of the environment also. We have those people. But we have also had continuously writers, the best of them in Gujarat, teaching there. And spending time, painters, Kirati Sadra basement, this is called, and all the other painters, Jairam Bhai at the very beginning, and then Bhupen and Ghulam Muhammad Sheikh, everybody has been coming to this place and spending time. Then we have theatre people. Yeah, Hasmukh Bhai was here all the time. And the theatre group there at the Visual Arts Center. And so, Subhash Bhai and all these people. Then we have had sculptors from the early times. Esther Bem was such an attractive teacher. Wonderful person to have on campus. And she was a sculptor too. And her sculpture was, once marble sculpture was here, if you remember in the old times when we thought. So that we had sculptors in the Kanoria Center. This Kanoria Center sits here. We had film people. Some of our students went away and became film people, very good film people. We had economists. We have social scientists. We have political scientists. We have troublemakers. We have madmen. We have every kind of person possibly on this campus. We have a science center here. Though it's for school children, but still I remember, every time there was trouble, I could go to the community science center library and look up something. Because I didn't understand geometry of geodesy or something like that. Dr. Rao was there. So in this campus, within 200-meter area, I've got everything. All the worldly specializations. And I think this is absolutely a luxury. Then we have sharing. We have juries which are open, absolutely open. Anybody can walk in. Even a dog today, one was described, and this dog came and inspects him and goes away. So it's an open jury. There are exhibitions. There are no rules in this building. Strange place. No rules. What a waste of money, really. But it's that kind of a place. So we have the roofless building, which will always be in my memory, like in my dreams. This place comes in my dreams. It's that kind of a powerful place. The next thing, we had practitioners. Practitioners who gave of their most valuable time. Honorary director, it used to be, for several generations in this line, honorary director. Honorary director means he was a practitioner. Morning he will be here, afternoon he will be here. Just imagine half their life they were spending on this campus. What they have given, each one of them. Look at that long life. And that the practitioner who is not only a visitor, and an academic who is not simply a theoretician. This is, I think, one of the key factors in the making of this institution. This factor has to be integrated in a manner in which it makes sense from every point of view. from the point of view of right teaching, from the point of view of dynamic teaching, from the point of view of connection with the world. And I think this is a process which will need some further development. Because we then, of course, have to also shelter the institution from all kinds of possibilities. And that sheltering is necessary. And yet, we don't want to lose the practitioner and don't want to make him somebody who is available as a resource, but who considers this as a place that belongs to me. I am of this place is mine. And it comes like that. That is required. Same way with the academic, that the academic goes out into the world and says, okay, you consider me a Pantuji who writes research papers and whatnot. I'll show you. I'll show you. That is what this school has been. Then the last one is commitment rather than qualification was the basis of this school's existence. Any person who showed a passion, any person who showed an ability. Look at Piraji Sagar. He is not recognized internationally or even Indian-wise he was recognized. But I mean, a passion for doing things, working and teaching. He became professor, emeritus, Piraji Sagar. Like that, one after another, we have this kind of program. And this is a meritocracy of the highest order. And I think this is something which is wonderful about the school, that it believes in merit. It doesn't believe in titles. And I think this is something which will continue. It will continue. So in summary, I hope I have not taken too much time, but now I'd like to summarize. Learning is not a transaction. Learning is an internal process. Rules are circumstantial. Directions, aims, and purposes are long-term. If I may go so far as to say, timeless. They don't change. The nature of our relationships with each other, the nature of our relationships with nature, the nature of our relationship with things, that has some continuities which are ancient. And I don't think they're the basis, they're the very basis of being human. The wonder of seeing the sunrise or a moon, that is at the basis of being human. So that rules are circumstantial, but the values are timeless. Next, tacit agreement forms community of practice. So the rules should be there, the explicit formulation should be there, the internal search for each individual should be there, but the community of practice as something which is tacitly agreed upon, where I and Pratyush both know what is the right thing and what is not the right thing. And I think this is something in which, my working with my colleagues here has given me so much fulfillment and so much trust in human beings, because there is that commitment to this tacit agreement, this non-explicit agreement. I know each one of us agrees on those basic things. Explicit rules support this, but they are always open to re-question. Ethos is a cultural fact. Law is its tool. Ethos is a cultural fact. It has developed over centuries and it will continue to develop, change, etc. as people said. Yes. But the law is its tool. And the law is the handmaiden of culture, not the master of culture or mistress of culture. And that this school has proved again and again and again, and will continue to do so. Greater the diversity, richer the questions. I was so touched today when even a peon is able to give a talk which is architecture. This so unfortunate we have adopted this Spanish word peon in India. I am trying to find a good word for, human beings are doing such important work. We call them peons. Spanish word. But anyway, so the greater the diversity, the richer the questions. Some of the best questions to me were asked by one of the 3 Bharats who used to be on this campus. There were 3 Bharats, you all remember those 3 Bharats. And they would come in the most fluent Gujarati, absolutely, without any mistake, Sanskritized Gujarati. They would ask me a question about the state of the nation or the state of the environment. I was aghast, I didn't have any answer. And he was supposed to be mad. So even that, greater the diversity, richer the questions. It's an open campus. And the school is the place of questions. School is not the place of answers. Answers we will find in due course. Questions. Are we asking the questions? And are we making the whole world uncomfortable with our questions? Or at least look at itself in the light of that question. They are not uncomfortable. We don't have to be supercilious and make them uncomfortable. But at least that question is raised here. This is the essence of this school. So with all this, you can see that I have learned to be a human being at this place. I have learned to be somebody who can find an inner compass, or at least keep on trying to find an inner compass. May not find all the time. Sometimes we get angry. Sometimes we make dirty jokes. All of that thing happens, but it's all right. We are finding our compass, an inner compass. What made that possible? Our gratitude is to Ahmedabad and its society. It's peculiar, particular, hopeless, problematic, but wonderful kind of society that it is. Then is our gratitude to this school, this place, this building, this environment, the trees around, birds, all the people, this school, to the founders of this school. I don't know whether they could imagine at that time what kind of a school it could become. Maybe they could, I don't know. Maybe they were visionaries, I don't know. Whether they were or not, what does it matter? They did something which is unprecedented in the history of this country and in the field of education. Unprecedented. No money, nothing available, few minds, and so much productivity. And Doshi, I must say that this is something for which we all, I think every single one of us, feels the gratitude to all of you who set up this place. My teachers, what wonderful teachers I have had. We all know them. All the teachers. Sometimes we used to curse them, R.J. Shah, C.V. Shah. Ajit Bhai also sometimes, once in a while. Then there were also, and Raja we could curse unendingly. But he was known as a slave driver, not here, elsewhere, in Nairobi. So all of these teachers were wonderful. Mickey has the distinction of being in that line of great fashionable teachers. In that line, so many great teachers. So many wonderful students, friends from whom one learned. I learned from Suresh Patel. I learned from Mickey. I learned from Nimish. I learned from Vivek Khandekar. I learned from Shetty. I learned from Bipin Desai. I mean, endless. And my own friends, my batch, who is sitting here, they were going to occupy one corner, but they are not. I'm grateful to them for being what they are. My partners, who allowed me to spend, officially it was agreed on half a day, but I think I used to spend 3 half days in the office, and they allowed me. Sohan and Kalon allowed me all of these liberties. Because it was a bond. of a different kind. Still is. So I'm grateful to my friends. I'm grateful to my colleagues who are so wonderful. Not only colleagues who are teaching with me, not just Nitin Raja or Vicky Desai or Munna or Pratyush or Kashi. It's not just that. It's even people like Ramesh. It's people like Panchal. It's people like Adita Ben, Hansa. These people I haven't found an administration which is so alive to the spirit of being a school of art. You know, I used to have trouble. Panchal would come to me back with the budget and say, Sahib, books માટે આટલું જ રાખીશ, બરાબર નથી, કંઈક કરો. Where do you find an administration who does that? Then the Malis, what a wonderful day they keep this place. The people who clean the place, the people who are available for all the kind of messenger services. These are all people, you know, if you see Devji and I joined the school in the same year. He as an administrative person and I as a student. We are roughly the same age. He is little older. Devji is capable of giving a full lecture on architecture. He has done that at RSPs, much to the disgust of faculty members. Because sometimes he was holding the attention of the students better than they could. This is the kind of people that we have had in this class. My students, I can't think of a more wonderful bunch of people. All these years. And students not only of the School of Architecture, students of all the schools, students even of schools elsewhere who come here and spend time on this campus. The library. Library is a fantastic place. Grateful to that. And finally, of course, very grateful to my wife, my family, my brother-in-law Kiran, who has flown all the way from Vancouver just to attend this lecture. You don't know how much they have given to this school. There are so many hours where my students needed a shoulder to cry on. And I'm sure this is with Madhvi and Vicky also, every one of us, that this is the privilege of being a teacher, that we teach as a family, not just as individuals, and the whole family is involved. Thank you very much, all of you. Gemini is sitting here. He was the first person to whom I became a teaching assistant. I think he was teaching in this school for the first time. He had taught elsewhere before. And I was put as his assistant. And since then, the deepest regard and friendship have been there. Punita was our student. And this is the School of Architecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Chhaya. I think it was a very, very moving lecture. Like all your lectures and all your talk. And as I see it, it's also a very important and historic lecture. What you have done here is you have opened up the place. And we were talking about, Bino was talking about a relay race where ideas have to continue and people change. The word that you keep using, and I remember you use, what is the genetic code of the place? I think what you have done here in 45 minutes is really amazing. This is throwing more light on that. That you have really listed out what makes this place unique. And all of us, faculty, students, friends, alumni, cannot thank you enough for that. I'm imagining that you'll have many more talks and many more lectures here. If you had this idea that the retired life would be peaceful and we won't trouble you, we're going to be calling you again and again. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I would request everyone to put their hands together again. short some simple ceremony. The alumni associations and alumni want to make an announcement and give you something important. So Rishbhai.
I came to know Chhaya in the month of November, December 1969 with his batch. They used to cost, used to do measure drawing, and I used to make and get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's what I was batch. From Faculty of Architecture Alumni Association, we received a number of messages from your colleagues and alumni, and we compiled them together, and we would like to give it to you. Something no one of you know, but I will explain a little better. This small gift from AAA, it's very expensive. I'm sure you will remember AAA. Chhaya with Bimal and Hara were instrumental in making sure that AAA survives this. There were 3 attempts made prior to this. This time we are very grounded. And I'll definitely give credit to Chhaya, Bimal and Hara. Thank you, Chhaya. Which none of you would have seen it. This is Chhaya. In 1969.
Yes,
And
party.
his first job was given by me to do my model.